All right, we're here on more of a check-in on the death lineup because there's not a lot of Warriors news. There's not much Valkyries news, but there is Team USA basketball, and I've watched both games from Team USA for the men and the women. The women today just beat Belgium. It's a pretty tough game. Like the thing about it is when I was growing up, at once the dream team was created, like these games were not very close. Like it was just kind of blowout and blowout. Even in 96, mostly blowouts, 2000, mostly blowouts. And then in 2004, then they got beat. And so then they had to readjust for 8 and 12 and 16. But still, like I just felt like the early games were still kind of blowouts, but man, the world has just gotten so much better overall. Like you have South Sudan playing competitively with Team USA, and Marcus Thompson actually has a fantastic piece on South Sudan and Luol Deng that if you have an athletic subscription, you should definitely read it. But what is your relationship with the Olympics? Like do you even remember watching like the Redeem team? You would have been really small kid at that point, and those kind of teams. Like you didn't grow up with the actual dream teams. You didn't see Michael, Magic, and Larry play. But what is your relationship with the Olympics and Team USA basketball?
I don't think I ever really cared because there were no Warriors until FIBA when Steph and Clay played, right? And they won. That was the last time they won FIBA, I believe, in like 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the Olympics, like I feel like the earliest Olympic memory I even have is when KD, Clay, Draymond, and Harrison were on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really remember watching it all too often. I can't even remember the LeBron Kobe losing. Maybe I do. When was Ricky Rubio like a thing? 16-year-old Ricky Rubio? Because I do remember that.
2008, I think.
Okay, so I do remember that. I remember that. But no, not as this is probably the most I've been invested in the Olympics. And then last time around when Draymond was in it, that was probably my second most, invested in the Olympics at that time. This is probably my first time really being invested in the women's side. I remember watching it. I was in Mexico when the 2021 was happening, so I got to see a little bit of it, but I wasn't as invested in the WNBA in general as I am right now. So
I can remember 2004 waking up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning just to watch Team USA play. And then, and then they lost. I'm just like, what is going on here? The Manu Ginobili Olympics for basketball. So if you've paid attention to the men's and women's side, Team USA is still clearly the best team in on each side. You can even dig through the stats and look at the numbers. And the U.S. men, they've outscored in both of their games. They've won by a total of 43 points, which is 10 more than Germany, who is in Group B and was also 2-0. And on the women's side, France actually has outscored their opponents by 42. Team USA outscored by 39. So they're right there, but a lot of these I guess I'm just surprised that some of these games are a little bit more competitive early on, and even with South Sudan, the men's team, I thought they were gonna I thought at some point, I think it would probably be late in the first half. I was like, okay, they figured this game out. They're going to go on a run and they're winning by 30. And that absolutely did not happen. You see a little bit of, and this is what you wouldn't have seen in 92 when the gap was so wide, is in a close game. I think it is normal to get a little tight. And there are moments when you're watching some of the Team USA stuff, and this could also be part of the Jason Tatum's not playing a lot, that kind of thing, is when you do get in, you want to do your thing, and then you see Tatum just like dribbling the ball with his foot. He looks like he has like 2 left shoes on, like that's how he's kind of playing. But yeah, I'm just surprised and actually happy that the gaps are so much smaller than they've ever been in the Olympics, both men's and women's in it. And it's fun basketball. Like you're watching these games and they're exciting. They feel important. And as the tournament goes on, that's just going to get better and better and better. Like even I saw a stat. It's actually from a Denver Nuggets fan who sent me this stat. So I did not double check it, but it was something like when Jokic was on the court in the first game against Serbia, they were about even with Team USA. And in the minutes that he was off of the court, we outscored them by like 25 or something, like some crazy number like
I
that.
think there was also a stat that Ben Golliver was like updating, like Embiid on, Embiid off, Embiid on, Embiid off, like for both halves. And it was just like Embiid on -9, Embiid off
God.
+24. So we could throw that right back in Serbia's face right there. But no, I mean, Jokic is the best player in the league, so it makes sense.
And it seems like, at least to me, Anthony Davis is like the perfect Olympic 5
Yeah.
because he's tall and he can jump, so he protects the rim. He's not the best post player in the league, but he's going to stand there and he can pass out of a double team, he can turn around, he can shoot a jumper, but he can also, get out to about 15 feet and hit that shot too. But just the athleticism that he has, even as he gets a little bit older, he gets a little bit slower. Still, this athleticism is head and shoulders above any of the other bigs that I've seen. And Joel Embiid, I don't understand. I mean, I guess I understand why he wanted to be on this team. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, he feels he's one of the best 2 or 3 players in the league. But he doesn't look like he's in shape or that he's ready to play. And B, it's almost like he already has a ready-made excuse next year for when Philadelphia fades down the stretch. Oh, if I didn't play in the Olympics, I would have been able to rest my body a little bit more. Like I just don't understand what he is doing. Like what, this is a Grant Hill and Steve Kerr and Spoelstra and Colangelo and all these folks who put this team together. What is the reason for Joel Embiid to be on this team outside of the fact that you just want to continue to market the NBA?
Maybe so he wouldn't go to France to like have him on the team. So yeah, he wouldn't join another team.
Could he have played on Team France?
Yeah, I mean, what is he? Is he oh man, what's the see? That's where it gets all murky for me. Is like it's like a French province, or is it some stuff like that where he's from? Is he from like Cameroon?
Yeah, he's from Cameroon. Yeah, I guess he would have been able to play for the French team. It's just can't wait. Does the Cameroon? I'm sure there's a Cameroon team, right?
I don't think so. French mandate territory in Central Africa. It now forms part of the independent country. They are an independent country.
They are in the Olympics. I don't.
I don't get it. I just knew that there was a chance he could play for France. Maybe the Cameroon team is just like awful, and he didn't want to play for them.
I think I heard somebody say, maybe on one of the broadcasts, that if he thought the Cameroon team was going to qualify, he would have played for that team. But
yeah, that would make sense.
Qualify. And this is not a shot at Joel. I understand you want to play. You are one of the best players in the league. Phil, you're kind of playing for 76ers fans for the same reason that you said, back in the day when you didn't see any Warriors playing. So you were like, I don't know if I want to watch this. Same thing for him, right? The 76ers fans who do enjoy him are happy that he's on the team because that's kind of their guy.
And when's the last time a 76er has been an Olympian?
Was
Allen Iverson?
What team was Drew on when he was in 2021?
He was on the Bucks.
Okay, he would have been on the Bucks. Yeah, maybe it's Iverson. Ben Simmons had to be on some FIBA team in somewhere.
Yeah, FIBA,
but he was for Australia, not the USA.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't really have a big problem with him. But they are definitely trying to force him. And it'd be, if you had the opportunity to kind of hang out with Kerr and maybe grab a beer after this thing is all over, and it's like, okay, why did this have to happen? Why did it happen in this way? I would love to hear like the honest truth about trying to get him in, trying to play him. How early can you take him out without him being frustrated? That whole thing. He's it's so funny. It doesn't matter what country they're playing. He is booed every single time.
Really?
Yeah, it's like crazy. It's like they played South Sudan and he's just out there in the warm-ups and South Sudan, or I mean not South Sudan fans, but just the Olympic crowd is just booing him. But so I would say if we'll talk men's team first and then we'll go to the women. But overall, I guess I'm surprised that they're having more struggles than I would have expected. Some of this has to do with their lack of outside shooting, and it's like, okay, you're supposed to have Steph, and they're not really opening Steph up. Really, I think LeBron. Like it's funny because we watched the friendlies, and we're like, oh man, LeBron is like like a Draymond on steroids, except he looks for a shot way more than Draymond does. So you see Steph moving. And then LeBron starts to get one-on-one, and then Steph just stops and goes into the corner. So there
and
is
all
that.
of LeBron's passing, he's not looking to do handoffs. He's not looking to pass around the perimeter. If you look at his eyes, like all of his scanning is like post inside in the paint. Like he's looking to find that little window in the paint as well.
Mm-hmm. So are you surprised at, I guess we can start with Steph. We know Steph the best. Are you surprised with Steph's struggles early on in these Olympics?
Yes and no. Yes, because I'm going to give him excuses, but technically he's the best, so he should figure it out and not have to. These excuses aren't necessarily valid, but I think that if you're going to have Steph off of the ball, one of the most deadly off-ball weapons in the NBA, maybe ever, and you're not screening for him and you're not using the off ball of him to your advantage, then I'm a little like, what's the point of him being off ball? Like there was a little heartwarming moment for me when Steph and KD finally got to play with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And Steph wasn't running off the screen because no one's setting him any damn screens, but he was running off the ball, kind of doing his thing where he goes from left corner to right corner, but he's curling around the right corner, and you're supposed to have this like blindside screen set, so he's wide open in the corner, and KD has the ball at the top of the key, and he's pointing at Tatum. He's like, set the screen, because KD's the only one who knows how to play with Steph, therefore he's the only one for some reason who's understanding like, yo, we need to set off ball screens for this guy. And I'm sure Kerr's like hammering in the message, but like, again, if you're going to have this guy run off the ball, you have to set screens for him. And there has been a few that, Embiid even set that would get him open, but it just seems like not many guys are used to playing off the ball, really. So they don't have to do all that stuff. And so I think when Steph's off the ball, not getting screen, he's not getting touches. And then I think they try to force it for him to bring it up and cook. And then it's just this out of rhythm mess that they just haven't figured out. And I think a lot of USA's struggles, it's not Steph's fault per se, but I think a lot of this wouldn't be as tight if Steph was, able to get going and like able to go on this flurry. It's like, okay, we won by an easy 20. It was really easy. Like, I think that's what we're waiting for. And I also think we're still waiting for the starting lineup change that has got to happen by next game, right? Like KD's got to start by next game.
I heard, or no, actually I read, I want to say it was from Joe Varden, that Kerr wants to keep him as a six man. I agree. I agree with you that I think it's going to change. I think especially as you get deeper into the tournament, you will want it because you're not going to play as, you're not going to do these hockey subs the way that he's currently doing them. As you get deeper and as these games get a little tighter, I think he'll have an actual rotation. For right now, it sounds like he wants to keep KD on the second team, and the second team outplayed the first team against South Sudan.
Yeah, but he also said that Embiid was a starter, no question.
Yeah.
And Embiid got a DMP. It's crazy, man. Tatum gets a DMP in game 1, Embiid in game 2. I think Kerr's doing a good job because they're winning. But I think there are these little nuances that it's just like, it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I think there's just like because we see it with the Warriors. He's just like this philosophical, like, I won't.
He
And it's
should
like,
have brought Mike Brown on his roster because at least he could say Mike Brown is in charge of the rotations. Like
yeah,
when Mike
yeah.
Brown was with the
Like
Warriors.
I think that personally for me, like if I'm watching, like I think Drew is awesome. I think he's a great Team USA guy. I think he's taking the ball away from Steph when he brings it up because you have him, Steph, and LeBron in some of these starting lineups. It wasn't game 2, it was game 1, but then he gets minutes with them in game 2. And it's like, okay, so if I think about it in a Warriors perspective, right? Well, to do the Warriors lens here, why did Steve Kerr want to start Pajemski, Draymond, and Steph? It's because you had 3 guys who you trusted bringing the ball up and to make a decision with the ball in their hands. And in the USA, you kind of got a lot of those guys, maybe not necessarily facilitators, but guys who are confident bringing the ball up. And, Drew, Steph, Book can bring the ball up. All these guys can bring the ball up. But I almost think taking Drew out and going against that philosophy of like 3 ball handlers who could bring it up and just have Steph and LeBron be the only guys that you're saying bring the ball up and like get the offense going. I think that's going to get Steph, make it not out of rhythm, because it really does feel like he's like Steph is just the pity, like, oh, he's not getting touches guy. Let's give him the ball. Let's let him get a shot and see what happens. And
I wish they would actually use the space that he helps them with more, but they don't have the ability to do that because he's getting guarded, at least in the beginning, like he would if he was on the Warriors. Like they're guarding him, like once he gets past half court, they're on him. But this team is so dependent because of their size on on bigs that they can't really spread it out in other ways to get open. And I thought they were going to be a little bit better of a 3-point shooting team. Now Derek White, he kind of popped out there in game 2, and he was making some shots. And Derek White is the perfect Steve Kerr player.
so perfect.
If this was the regular season, there would be articles written about how Derek White reminds Steve Kerr of Steve Kerr. Like that's how perfect he is of a Steve Kerr guy. I think, I was like, man, is he really going to get minutes over Halliburton? And then I thought about it for a second. I was like, of course he's going to get minutes over Halliburton. He does everything that Steve Kerr loves that Steve Kerr could not do as a basketball player. And Halliburton is out there, kind of shooting from as far as he possibly could with the space that's being given to him. And Halliburton is, if he wanted to, he could go by these guys left and right, but he's sort of trying to find his spot. And I'm not saying that Derek White is better than Halliburton. I think it's actually a good thing for Halliburton because he's actually seeing like, okay, how do I take my team to the next level? And he's got like 10 guys who understand how to do that. But yeah, I'm just, it's so funny because what we're starting to see in Twitter are all of the old memes about, see, Steph can't do it by himself. And these Twitter LeBron folks think it's like 2018 all over again. Like they completely forgot about 2022 and the championship that Curry got. Not that that means anything to me because just people goofing off on Twitter. But you start to see that and you're like, guys, we're on the same team. This is Team USA. Steph doesn't have a Warriors jersey on. LeBron doesn't have a Lakers jersey on. But yeah, there is that aspect of like, even though LeBron and Steph and KD, they're all loving each other. Like there's still the fan bases who are like, trying to separate those three and who's better and who's
Meanwhile, KD's been the best one out of everyone.
Oh gosh, it's not even close. He's
not
like,
close.
He's like, who's the on the other side, on the women's side. And I was thinking the same thing. Like Asia Wilson is amazing. She's as a post, she has that little step back and she's so tall. She can get that little, 10 to 15 foot shot off anytime she wants. But the one who's making a lot of things happen is the KD of their team. And that's Breanna Stewart. She's been awesome in these games. Like she's all over the court. She's hitting threes and then she's also running the floor. She's beating her person down court. She's swatting shots out of bounds. In watching last year's finals, the WNBA finals, they were not that they were overmatched a little bit. So when I was watching her, I didn't really see her for how good she really is. And then, early in the season, WNBA ball's a little bit different. But man, I am really enjoying watching her play basketball. It's been so fun because even a little bit outwardly more like emotional or like frustrated than I've seen her. So that's really cool. But here's another thing, and this is more towards the women's side. So I'll ask you about this. When you see the players who are kind of like the alphas for their team, and then now they're in this now they're in an ecosystem where you kind of have like 8 or 9 or 10 alphas, and you see who takes that step back. Like I watch, it's pretty clear that Diana Taurasi is like, we are winning playing through Stewart and Wilson, and I'm just gonna kind of chill.
Yes,
Because she's not even really shooting. Like her entire game is to feed the post. Not saying that she's not, because she just knows that her time was the previous Olympics, and now they have to play through them. But even watching someone like Kelsey Plum on her team, she's yelling and she's pointing and she's creating havoc. And here she plays more reserved because of the idea, okay, this is what this team is about. It is so interesting to see the players kind of fall into these roles and responsibilities. And you're seeing it on Team USA a little bit on the men's side with Steph. Steph is kind of like, to me, I'm like, dude, you give the ball to LeBron every single time. Like, why do you keep doing that? Like, you just take it up once or twice. Like, he's trying to give it to you to do it, and you're just turning your head and running, like, so that he doesn't pass it back to you. But it's like these roles, like it's almost like they fall into these roles instead of really being themselves. That whole personality and human dynamic is so interesting to me when I watch these teams.
yeah. For the U.S., it's like they've just all deferred to LeBron, which is funny because he's not. I guess he's like the best player for that team, but it's just like a different circumstance with the women's side. Is that the WNBA, the best players in the WNBA are on Team USA. The best players in the NBA aren't all on Team USA. The globalization in the men's side is way more vast than the women's side right now in terms of like elite talent. And so I think it's pretty easy to defer in the WNBA because it's like, okay, the people winning MVPs are on my team. And on the NBA side, like I still feel like there's not enough deferring, and arguably they're not deferring to the right guy. I think KD.
Do you think LeBron wants that, or do you think?
I think he does.
They just see him as like.
I think it's both. It's both. You got these young guys. Like, who was Jason Tatum's favorite player growing up? Kobe. But I'm sure like LeBron was. It's just all these guys like looking up to Bron. But also like LeBron's awesome, man. It's incredible seeing what he's just puts his head down and is able to get to the rim. Did have a good amount of turnovers. It felt like this last game. But hey, man, if everyone's going to defer and he's got to step up, and he didn't like necessarily ask to do it, but he does it, like it's more power to him. But I think
the way that he has to be the guy, though, he's not the kind of scorer that KD is, where KD can kind of just pull from any part of the court. LeBron really has to get to his spot, and his spot is really in this style of game. Is really just getting to the hole. Like he is not shooting his jumper that confidently. Even his fadeaways, he's not shooting it confidently in that way. I think what he's seeing is like, okay, my fadeaway is a good shot, but if I pass this ball, we might get a great shot. And I think that's the way to do it. And that's what makes him such a smart player too. But on the Lakers, his fadeaway is going to be better than a Rui Hachimura, 3-pointer from the corner. Though Rui is playing some good basketball, and he's getting jobbed out there by bad referees.
Both Japan teams impressed me, man. I can't believe the Japan losing to France on the men's side was one of the. It's a screw over from the refs. I don't think I'll ever forget. But on the women's side, I was impressed by those guards, man. Last name was Yamamoto. her
Mhm.
brother was like a good baseball player. And I of course automatically thought Dodgers guy. I haven't even looked to see if that was true yet, but she was awesome. And yeah, both Japan teams really impressed me on the basketball side.
Rui Hachimura, the 4th leading scorer after 2 games on the men's side at
Wow,
22
man.
points a game.
I really hope we match up with France at some point because I just want to see what the Wemby Rudy defensive anchor tandem looks like against our team because we just rely
Rudy
on so
looks
much.
Yeah. Rudy looks just as clueless on offense maybe even more clueless on offense and it's probably because he's got Wemby kind of crowding him a little
Yeah.
bit. But it's like, man, it is clear who's the best player on this team. Like, it is really clear when you watch who they play through, the confidence that Wemby has. Like, in overtime, he pulls up for 3 and he misses, and they get the offensive rebound and they kick it right back out to him. No hesitation, and bangs the next 3. I was like, man, this guy, he's living for these moments in front of this home crowd. It's been pretty awesome to watch. The Japan teams that you were talking about, though, my guy Watanabe, I thought he was gonna be a little bit more of like the main cog in this one, and he's not. He's not really. But and then we got Brazil with Guy. Guy's playing okay.
I haven't gotten to watch him yet.
They're not that good. They're really not that good of a team. But you see Guy out there. Guy's playing for that team. He's one of their better players. So it's just that is also part of the fun of the Olympics is watching all that stuff. So where we stand today after the Team USA women won their game, both teams are 2-0. They both made the quarterfinals already. Germany on the women's side, Germany and Team USA are 2-0 in Group C. France in Group B is also 2-0, and then in Group A, Serbia and Spain are also 2-0. For the men, Canada is 2-0. I see your guy, RJ Barrett, second leading scorer behind Giannis.
That's
so
my
far.
guy.
I don't know. I just wanted to give him a little bit of a shout out. And on so Canada 2-0, Germany and France in Group B also 2-0. France has played some closer games though than Germany. And then on the US side, just the United States is 2-0. And they get to play a Puerto Rican team on Saturday who is a minus 52 after 2 games. So I think that's probably going to be the easiest one for the men. The tournament, I guess I expected the games to be a little bit more frequent. But I forget every time I watch the Olympics, the basketball tournaments are basically built to take over both weeks. So I was like, why aren't there more games back to back? I was like, oh yeah, because they try and stretch the whole thing out for both weeks of the Olympics. Have you got to watch anything else in the Olympics?
Handball. That looked fun.
I'm glad you brought that up because Davis
handball.
Japan had a brutal loss in handball on Saturday too. That's Sam Esfandiari had a tweet today that made me laugh. He's like, every time the Olympics comes and I watch handball, I think, man, I can't believe that handball hasn't taken off more in the U.S. And then for the next 3.9 years, I forget about handball until the next Olympics.
That's good. That's funny.
Yeah,
it was entertaining. It was very entertaining.
So Simone Biles, a big star. She won the individual today. I think, I always have a bigger appetite for the Olympics, I think, before they start than I actually do when they're happening. And I think the main reason is because there's still so many other things that I follow on a day-to-day basis that I'm like, okay, I have to do this, but then the Olympics are on, and then I just kind of I guess I don't do a good enough job because I wanted to watch more of these men's games because this is the best tournament in the history of the Olympics. I think when you're talking about the complete teams on in all the countries that are playing, I haven't seen, I saw the overtime of France beating Japan, but I didn't, if I didn't even think about scheduling out those games because I'm scheduling out the Team USA games so I can record them and get to them. But Peacock is so good with all of the content, and I'm just missing stuff that I wanted to watch. And this always happens. And I think the Olympics, like if you really, really wanted to watch it, you have to like take 2 weeks off for vacation or something.
Right. Yeah. The one that I've been meaning to catch that I haven't gotten to catch yet is the 3-on-3, the 3x3 girls, women's.
Jimmer Fredette on the men's side, man.
I didn't even watch it.
They were 0-2. I saw a little bit of women's beach volleyball. I haven't seen any of the women's 3-on-3 yet. Like in my mind, I'm like, all right, I need to watch some breakdancing, and then I don't even know when it's on, and I have no idea what's going on. All right, like I said, this is going to be a little bit more of a check-in than a longer podcast. But is there anything going on in the Warriors land that?
I mean, I guess we have to pay attention to August 6th or 7th is the Lauri Markkanen date, right? I think Tony Jones, the Utah Jazz reporter for The Athletic,
he keeps
saying it's not happening.
Yeah, he keeps telling us that. He's like, Lauri doesn't want to leave. Like, so this is a non-story.
Yeah, I trust him, but I would love for him to be wrong, but I trust him.
Somebody asked me, same Denver Nuggets fan who I mentioned who had the Jokic stat. He said, if is there a chance that the Warriors can actually get the pieces back together and make another run before Steph retires? And I think he looks at the Warriors as kind of like the big bad wolf still because of all the bad memories.
No way.
And like it's interesting that there is a little bit of perception that, don't let Steph get going, because if you do, and I'm just like, I don't see it. I'm like, I think that, they'll be a top 7 or 8 team with the current roster. And if they get somebody like a Lauri Markkanen, maybe they're a top 5 or top 6 in the West. If Steph is on a heater, maybe more. If Draymond, stays on the court, maybe a little bit more. But I don't know. I don't see. And Joe Lacob, we could talk about the Joe Lacob interview with Tim Kawakami. I mean, he flat out said the team is better this year than last year. I don't know about that one either. I think he's also having Draymond at 75 games this season as part of his calculus there. But also, Steph has been fairly decently healthy, and it's almost like they're not able to take advantage of that like they would have in the past. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not feeling this team like others are, and I think where people really like this team is more the idea of the pieces that they added. I hope that they fit. I'm not sure. Like, I watch Kyle Anderson, who is good. Can you play Kyle Anderson with Draymond?
They probably
defensively. I think you can. I think you definitely can defensively, but on offense, are you going to play Draymond, Kuminga, and Kyle Anderson together on offense?
No, you're not gonna.
Like, that's the part where I have a hard time with this team, which is if you could substitute a defensive team and then substitute an offensive team, just go back and forth with that. There are pieces there where you're like, okay, this makes sense, this makes sense, this makes sense. But I'm not sure the Kyle Anderson fit is as good as everyone thinks it is with Draymond on the court. Maybe it's an on-off thing. Maybe it's he's mostly going to play with the second team when Draymond is not playing. But I know Kerr's going to look at how those guys play defensively, and he's going to be like, late in the game against a good team, we're going to have to run those guys together. And then what do you do on offense? Because I still did not see them. Unless, look, I will say this, unless Buddy Hield has a tremendous season, I just still don't see the person who's going to cause the other team to go, okay, maybe we don't triple team Steph. Like, maybe that's Buddy Hield, and he will have a good season this year. But other than that, it's like, I don't know. They're not coming off Steph for a DeAnthony Melton open corner 3. Like, that's the part that I have a problem with offensively too.
Yeah, I mean, I can be convinced that this team will make the playoffs. I will not be convinced that they can be contenders with how the roster is currently constructed. I think you know you look back in these past 2 years, and I think after 2022, we were like, okay, they were in the 7th seed or they were the 6th seed, but they were only like a few games out of the 4th seed. And then this past year, it's like, okay, they were the 10th seed or the 9th seed, no, the 10th seed, but they were no, I think they were the 9th. I forget, but they were only I think they were the 10th seed, but they were only really like 4 games out of like the 6th seed or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Thing is like it's like, okay, you know, fix a few things here and there, and you know, you might be the 6th seed instead of the 10th seed. I just like I feel like it's a reasonable thought, but at the same time, it's like you're not accounting for maybe teams getting better. And I don't think any team in the West has necessarily gotten worse yet, unless you could make Denver. I don't know, did they? Like, but they'll still be better than the Warriors, even if they did.
There's some Nuggets fans who are pretty
worried.
frustrated with their moves.
Yeah, they should be. They should be. But yeah, because they lost KCP. But then you look at like San Antonio, who got Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes. They have the year 2 in Wemby. They drafted Castle. They have Vassell. Like, who's to say they aren't going to be? Like, I almost project us in the range of the San Antonios, of the Houstons, of the Kings. I don't know how we'll see with the Kings with DeMar, but I almost project
the difference. I think the difference
11,
with those teams is you see the talent growth, the chemistry growth sometimes doesn't happen, especially when you bring over a new point guard, especially when you draft a point guard, because those are the cogs, and sometimes it takes a little while for all that stuff to gel together. Now in Houston, you would think Houston should, but still a lot of
3 games below us last year.
Well, like, a lot of their really good players though are still so young, so it becomes it is sort of that the disease of more thing where you're like, okay, is Jalen, you know, is he going to be happy if you know, whomever goes off, if has like are they going to play for each other? Like those are the pieces that you're trying to figure out too. So from a chemistry standpoint, sometimes those teams, they look much better on paper when they take that leap. But yeah, the talent on both of those teams is going to be there.
And do 1 through 10. Do your West 1 through 10, and I promise you, you're either going to have the Warriors 1 spot above Houston or 2.
Yeah, they will probably be competitive, but you know, we can do this kind of thing again. It's on paper, and then the season starts and somebody goes down, and you know,
but like, it's more likely for that to happen on Golden State's side than Houston or San Antonio's.
Who would have thought the last 2 years of the Grizzlies, right? You could not.
True, and they might be better than the Warriors.
Yeah,
it would not shock me if they took off.
Was it Ja's agent who was calling shots or something the other day in the media?
And his agent's former NBA player, Mike Miller.
Was that who it was?
Yeah.
Oh man, Mike Miller and Mike Dunleavy. He never seen those two guys in the same room together. All right. I think this is a good. We almost hit 40 minutes. You know, this is like just a casual summer Team USA conversation. But the next time we record, if we record next week, we'll have a better idea about where both the men's and women's Team USA teams stand. Is there anybody on either side that you think are going to give us possible worry? Is
probably
Germany?
France.
Is Germany? Oh, France. So you think France over Germany?
Did we already play Germany in the exhibition? We did, right?
I think, yeah, they may have played Germany. Yeah, I think
we did. We haven't played France in any game yet because we played Canada in exhibition as well. I think France on both sides would be a little worrisome. I think the women have an easier time getting the gold than the men do, because you look at, like I said, at the men's side, it's like, okay, not all the best players are on Team USA because it's the globalized NBA. Giannis is on Greece. Jokic is on Serbia. Luka is not playing because his team didn't make it. But like, you know, there's on the women's side is just there's not. I think it's because like the WNBA hasn't been like wasn't as popular. Maybe younger girls didn't think that it was feasible for them to like grow up and be professional basketball players because of the compensation. But now I think we'll start seeing that that change in the next decade or so when all the best players, it's way more globalized and Team USA will have more problems. But the Team USA on the women's side is about to break a record, right? It's about to be 8 golds in a row. That knock on wood, I have, but 8 golds in a row would be the record, I believe. They're at 7 right now.
Yep.
So I think that's likely. It's more likely than the men's, in my opinion.
I think both teams will still win.
Yeah.
This men's team scares me a little bit in that I kind of wonder if Steve Kerr is maybe overly worried about people's feelings, or, and I may be completely wrong about this, maybe he is using these early games to kind of spread it out, knowing, and the guys know that, okay, once we get to the medal round, like I'm cutting down this rotation here. Maybe that's what he's using the early rounds for, but I don't even think he's figured out what their best team is. Like I would love to see.
I think he knows it. I think he just hasn't done it. It's Steph, Braun, and KD all in the same lineup, and I think it's one of Drew or Derek White, and then one of Bam or AD. I think that's their best lineup. Because then you fix the point of attack defense problem with Steph. Because Steph was just getting attacked against South Sudan, right? Like they were just sending people every time. But if you have Derek White or Drew out there to take the point of attack, like it's not going to happen as much. And then Bam and AD on the center side, because they're mobile, they do what you said AD did. You don't have Embiid that's stuck in the ground.
Can we get Bamonte on our team? That dude is great.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Goodness. Yeah, that's another thing where you watch him on this floor with these guys, and you're like, he doesn't have to take a step back to anybody. Like, this dude is a great player. So you start Drew over Anthony Edwards?
I'd start Derek White over all of them, just because of what I said with limiting the amount of
he does all ball handlers work on defense.
Yeah, and limiting the amount of primary ball handlers so Steph can have more opportunity to do his thing.
It's kind of crazy. Imagine Derek White starting in the gold medal game. That would be amazing.
I mean, Draymond's kind of who won it for them in 2020, and he was kind of getting buried, right? Like he wasn't getting as much playing time, but they put in the impact guy, and he helped save the game. I need to rewatch that game, that gold for 2020.
Yeah, I wish those games were more readily available. Yeah. I want to watch 8 and 12. I may have those on iTunes somewhere if iTunes did not remove them. Because I bought those gold medal games because they were such good games. Yeah. Okay, but no, I'm just saying I get a kick out of it because Derek White starting and Jason Tatum can't like play without tying.
I remember a lot of the justification.
That's crazy.
I remember the justification when Kawhi got cut from the team, basically, and the choice between Derek White or Jaylen Brown went to Derek White because I thought like the narrative at that moment was he's going to be able to swallow not playing. Mm-hmm. Like he knows like he's not at the level of these guys, so he's not going to have an issue being a role player and sitting the bench. Here I go starting the guy now. It's a crazy come up for Derek White.
It's awesome. I love it. All right. So that is it from here. My main takeaway from this Olympics is Joe Lacob find a way to get Bam on this basketball team. Bam would be awesome.
Okay.
All right. I guess KD for what, 2 or 3 years, but Bam is a young man. All right. So for Bri, I am Double G. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.